So it's about 3:30 on Monday morning. Happy Monday. And the theme of the day is domination. World domination, personal domination is not cool. The sun is coming up usually after I get there, but it's almost the summer solstice. So it's bright and early. Also, I slept in till 2 a.m. this morning and didn't have to be at work until 3:15 a.m. This is the Commodore Barry Bridge going from the Philadelphia area down into the New Jersey, Swedesboro, New Jersey area. So what do most of the villains in old campy television shows have in common? World domination is their goal. And if you think about it, control freaks don't always want to dominate. They sometimes just want to maintain some feelings of safety, I guess. But if you're really a psychopath, you want to dominate other people. And so I see that always as an evil impulse. And of course, the comedy shows from my childhood when I used to watch television bear that out. And then Dr. Evil, he's a good throwback. Well, here we are again in this beautiful place that you've seen in various seasons. Well, I guess I have, you haven't. But we've watched the sun come up here together, but now the sun is well up. It's 7:45 or 7:44, and they just started to unload me. Here's a case for why you don't need to be in control and why you will be less toxic if you can give up control. I heard Aaron Doughty say about winning the lottery. He said, you don't want to win the lottery. Your soul doesn't want to win the lottery. That's just in the mind. And then I saw my two people. I saw the weak, wimpy, controlling person versus the kingly person. And I said to myself, okay, the mind is temporary. And that's the part that wants to control things. And we think we'd feel in control if we won the lottery. But our souls know better. The eternal part, the higher self, knows better. And that part vetoes the manifesting that we do on the mental level, on the temporal level. No, you don't need to win the lottery. It wouldn't make us, all of us, it wouldn't make the parts that go on feel happy. And if you think about lottery winners, they're not happy. So it doesn't make you happy at any level. And that's where the wisdom, the older wisdom of the soul comes in. The old part of us, the higher part, knows that control isn't good. It isn't necessary and it isn't good. And in a way it makes you a villain. Because you know the villains in the stories, that's what they all want to do. I think back to the stories in the old series, in the old TV series with Batman and world domination. That was the point. They want to control. They want to control other human beings. They want to control their own circumstances. It's evil. So we need to give that up. An example is in a traditional monogamous heterosexual relationship. It's hard for me in my long years, it's hard to remember any wife or girlfriend long term who didn't eventually withhold sex and affection I'm thinking of my grandmothers, I'm thinking of my aunts, I'm thinking of friends of the family, church, I'm thinking of the marriages I witnessed in church over many, many years. It's just hard to think of anyone, any wife or girlfriend who didn't withhold sex and affection to stay in control, or to try to at least give the illusion of control. And I was talking about that with my girlfriend yesterday, and she said, well, what else do women have? When men are economically more powerful, and over at least 10,000 years since the beginning of agriculture, because she and I have had conversations about that many times because of the classes I used to teach at Millersville. And so she's apprised of all of my evidence and arguments about why men have dominated women economically since the beginning of harnessing big animals to pull plows around. That's when the superior grip strength of men kind of led to economic advantages that weren't there during hunter-gatherer times. So what else do women have? When men have the advantage, they have it physically, but the main advantage is economically. And that's what keeps women in bad situations more often than a physical disadvantage. My partner is right. What else do they have other than control of sex? But it's sad and ironic because women like and need sex as much as men do, but they also have to use it as a bargaining chip. It leaves a lot of women in a place where they have neither advantage, especially as they grow in years. It's not fair. It's not good. And so I see the point. But at the same time, control, it doesn't help anybody. It leaves both people out. But if the man uses his traditional ways of leveraging and controlling, he also gets left out, because then there is coercion. Coercion kills everything. It kills the joy in everything. And that's what nice guys do. If they don't coerce directly, they obligate, and they make people feel guilty. If they supply, for example, dads in a traditional family, they supply the bread, they're the breadwinners, and so then they feel obligated, or not obligated, they feel entitled to being treated well in the bedroom and in other ways, like they expect their wife or girlfriend to make their lunch for them, or to wash their clothes, or to clean the toilet, or to pick up the kids, or all the other things. And it's bullshit. So nobody wins. A man at the end of a long, by the time grandkids come along, a man often feels like he's an accessory, like he's just the supplier, but he gets left out really in many conversations, especially if he's going deaf. And his kids, maybe they have more education than he does. Maybe jokes, the inside jokes, more because he hasn't been around. He's been working so much, and he hasn't been engaged or involved in their lives. So then you have this kind of backfiring from the man's side too, when he uses leverage. And the reason men work so hard, don't get this wrong, it isn't devotion, it isn't selflessness, it's leverage, it's control. That's why men have resented women, especially my generation and older, have resented women in the workforce, Not because they think that the women will take their jobs, or not only because of that, but because they feel their leverage slipping away. If women can work for the same wages, then what leverage will men have? So the control part, I started with women, but it's worse with men. Men are more controlling than women if you look back over the 10,000 years since agriculture started. The answer probably starts with men, that they have to let go first of their control. I'm pretty sure of that. And there's nothing stopping us from doing so. We're not going to lose anything. When we think about our external circumstances, yeah, then we're kind of powerless. And a control freak gets worse when he feels powerless. But the truth is, with your old soul in charge, you can let go of your external circumstances as an indicator of how happy you can be. You don't need to win the lottery. You don't need a good job with few hours. You don't need anything really to manifest on the outside if you can manifest on the inside. If you can become the person with the values and with the beliefs intact that you need, you won't care what happens on the outside. It won't even matter. Your vibrational level will be so high that you'll rejoice and be grateful in every circumstance. And it's possible, because I've seen it. I've seen it with certain people that I remember from past generations. People who had no external reason to be so happy. And they were far happier than the people who had good external reasons to be happy. You think about the people who have everything, the famous rich people, and they're the most miserable of all. They're the most abusive of drugs and other substances. They're the worst people to their families, and they have the worst people in their families who treat them the worst. And you can see that just every day in the news. So if you have the key to unlock happiness, it's by manifesting who you are, your identity, and what you believe. And once you get that straight, you can manifest anything else you want. You can manifest anything on the outside. You could win the lottery, but by then you wouldn't care about the lottery. If you see someone who has it all figured out, their external circumstances won't tell you. You won't know by their external circumstances. If you ever meet someone who's completely figured it out, thought he was coming to me. He was going to the next guy who got in the door just ahead of me. Maybe I'm next. Yeah, you won't care about your external circumstances if you have everything going the way it should on the inside. So if you meet somebody, you might not be able to tell. You would have to have your own game together on the inside to figure out if they did. I love this place down here by the river or the swamp or whatever it is. just looked on the map. It's Lower Alloways Creek, and it gets really wide as it goes south into the bay, into Chesapeake Bay. So if you're looking from the big picture, it's not too far from Virginia Beach on the bay. So it actually was Raccoon Creek, as you can see in this picture. And I'll zoom it out. You can see where Raccoon Creek goes south of Jack and Jill. And there's no big waterway on the other side of it like I thought. If you zoom out more, you can see how Raccoon Creek connects to the Delaware River. If you zoom out even more, you can see the Delaware River flowing into the bay, into Chesapeake Bay. So the thrilling conclusion of today's show is that if you need to be in control of everything, you're not going to be, and you're going to be a nefarious villain. So to avoid that outcome, figure out how to let go of your need to control things. Get your own house in order from the inside. Feel that gratitude for real. Don't fake it. Glad that you can learn all the things about life that really matter. And you'll find then a reflection on the outside. You'll find people loving you. You'll find people wanting to bless you, because they'll feel such a blessing being around you. And you'll find that your goal of being non-toxic will be fulfilled. Thought I should show you a little bit of this. I've been sitting here about 20 minutes already, moving slower than I am right now. My ELD device keeps trying to put me on duty instead of driving because I'm not moving. I have to keep telling it, no, I'm driving, really, I'm driving. It's interesting because you think about it in the context of our conversations. Am I manifesting this? And maybe my higher self thinks this is great because I'll just vibrate above it and I won't notice it. I'll be here in my cool space, eating really good food. Right now I've been nibbling on Parmigiano Reggiano. I found it at Giant Foods. It's so flavorful. And then some of these no-grain crackers, they're made out of seeds. And you put a little bit of Parmigiano cheese. Let me show you what that looks like. It's crumbly. Doesn't it make your mouth water? And you have that with a little bit of cracker. Look at those people fighting up there to merge. All these lanes here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 lanes are going into one lane to get across the bridge. But I'm eating organic cherry tomatoes, so I don't care. Maybe this whole thing will just disappear to me. It'll still be there, but I won't see it. I'll have an out-of-body experience and just float along above all the turmoil. I'm having a picnic. It's not a traffic jam after all. It's interesting because somebody planned this on a Monday, mid-morning on a Monday, and they knew it was going to happen. We didn't know, but whammo. Have to say I appreciate your company, but you know, you probably don't appreciate it as much as I do, so I'll let you go for the time being. I have a theory that even the most heinous villains try to control things because they're afraid. maybe the more heinous they are, the more afraid they are. And what happens to all of us, whether we're trying to control things or not, is that we get gaslighted. We get gaslighted into thinking that things are worse than they are, and that we are worse than we are. And when we buy into it, then of course we want to control everything. And then we become evil. That's what Yoda said about Anakin. He said, "In you I sense much fear." And you know what happens after that? After the fear is planted, it takes root, it becomes Darth Vader. So the way to avoid being a controlling, heinous villain, a psychopathic monster, is to stop being afraid. And the way to stop being afraid is to realize that we are being gaslighted from a number of different places. We gaslight ourselves into believing that we're not worthy, based on childhood experiences maybe, or our soul's history. And then every other exploitative son of a bitch comes along and sees the weakness, and because of the weakness within that sort of person, that person then exploits and gaslights and tries to persuade us that we're smaller than we are so that we'll be more controllable. And for some reason, controlling people feel better about themselves when they're in control. They feel safer. They can't just let things be. They have to figure out how to gaslight other people into submission, into obedience, into subservience, and worship if you're a narcissist. So it behooves all of us to figure out how not to be afraid, and how to then make everything that happens to us a picnic. And for me, in my journey, I get stabbings and jabbings wherever they come from. I don't even want to argue. I don't think it matters. But they're
Hazard reported ahead.
But they're gaslighting voices. They're trying to make me feel like I'm less than I really am. And so for me to win this game, I have to unbrainwash my inner self, my subconscious, my
Shoulder closed was reported on I-76.
The part of me that isn't subject, like doesn't care about external things, the part of me that just goes along making the best of everything no matter what. And we probably all have a part of ourselves like that. So then we have to figure out how to keep ourselves from being susceptible to the gaslighting. I think what's likely to happen if we don't do that is we'll become a nice guy, a fake-ass person who's manipulating with covert contracts, like I've explained in other episodes, or we'll become a narcissistic control freak. I don't think we can just be neutral. I think we have to be completely happy in our own skin. We have to be completely happy in our own skin. We have to figure out how to be happy no matter what the circumstances are. And then we become non-toxic. As far as I can tell so far in this journey towards non-toxicity, that's the only way to do it. That OMG, that is a big mess. Does nothing have meaning? Does a big accident like that have meaning? If one of your family members was one of those truck drivers, and there were some smashed up vehicles in that, both trucks and passenger cars, you have to be inspired. You have to, your actions will have an effect. Unless it's just a video game and we roll it up when we're done and we restart it. And there's no way to know either way. But when you see something like that, it makes the game very real. Sobering. There you are. Okay, the last thing I said to you was that that accident was sobering. And I went along silently, if you can imagine that, and had a little bit of Parmigiano and some coffee. Amazing coffee. Shade grown, organic, of course. And I started to think that maybe it's all a trick. If you think about meaning, and you wonder what means what, does anything mean anything? Hazard reported ahead. Hazard reported ahead. You know, what does that mean? Is it really a hazard? Or somebody trying to control us? Somebody's. Or even our own subconscious. And our subconscious is connected to everyone else's subconscious. That's what Jung said. There it is. Hazard ahead. Still there. So, if we're all connected, we may have a collective interest in running with our elbows out and hindering each other, keeping each other back. And that's what just occurred to me with the excellent cheese and coffee. I was thinking, I wonder if the accidents and the hazards and everything that's told to us that's sobering is just trying to make us live smaller. Maybe we collectively tell each other these things. We make things dire and urgent and scary because we want everyone else to slow down, so we'll be farther ahead in the race. And I wonder what would happen if we just refused to listen to all the stabbings and jabbings and doubts and fears and worries and everything that seems to be interrupting us and pushing us around and telling us, you know, slow down, be careful, worry. I know we do it to each other. It isn't just the collective unconscious or the collective subconscious telling us things that make us slow down. Real people act like that too. And so I'm thinking that it may be a collective need. And if we could collectively level up, I think we'd stop doing that to each other through our collective connection. So I think it's in everyone's best interest for you personally and me personally to level up. And every soul in the collective.
Take exit 286 on the right toward US 222 South. In a quarter of a mile, exit right.
And every soul in the collective who figures it out makes it easier for every other soul. I will say though that the month of June in these eastern states where the winters are harsh.
In 3/4 of a mile, turn left on US 222 South.
Where the winters are harsh and the roads need a lot of help and there's not a lot of infrastructure, as Bernie would say, help. with all the different distractions like texting and everything, and just living, the roads are very dangerous.
Half a mile, turn left.
And if you do want to get from one place to another in one piece, I guess, whether this is real or not, it can instruct us to pay attention. I always get down to 15, at least somewhere in those turnstiles. I feel bad for all the construction workers who die every summer and all year round. I notice Clutch Trucker talks about how company drivers tend to speed through construction zones because their governors keep them slower when the speed limits go back up and they can't make up the time. There are all kinds of motives when you're a professional driver to drive too fast and to drive tired and to be distracted. So that may be a byproduct of this channel, as you can see how to maybe mitigate some of those problems, or just stay off the roads altogether. That wouldn't be bad. Hey, you're a twaffle. They come through that light in the wrong lane, knowing that some poor bastard will let them in. So I'm going to vibrate at such a high level that I won't even see him, or call him a twaffle, or even notice he exists. I'm working on it. But I could just claim it. I could just say, nope, I'm not going to vibrate at that level anymore. Act like that.
222.
I'm just going to live above it. Maybe I'll disappear altogether like that guy in Kung Fu Panda. That teacher. He just evaporated into flower petals. That would be a good way to exit. If that's a choice, then I think I'll choose that one. One thing I've noticed, if we resist the collective will to be normal and to be small enough for everyone else to deal with, after we resist, we feel great. Resisting that collective will to be small enough for other people to deal with is really good for us. It feels good to do that. There are rewards for that, and there are punishments for that. And you have to decide. I think most of us just decide it's too much trouble to fight it. It's too much trouble to go against it. But going back to what I said earlier, if we do fight it and we do rise, I think enough of us do that, there's a collective rising. A critical mass of rising people lifts everybody. Cute kids. If my rising can help those kids with their rising, if we're all connected to each other, then even if I'm old and irrelevant, I'm not irrelevant, because my rising can help them, even if they never meet me, other than to wave at me as they're crossing the street. And that reason right there, that's enough for all of us to work at it, to try to get bigger and better and less afraid. If I can be less afraid and that helps other people be less afraid, it's absolutely worth it. we're connected psychically, woo-woo, magically, or not, we have a profound effect on each other. We think about each other when we buy clothes. You know, what will other people think? Whether we know them or not, these hypothetical other people. We think about them when we choose our neighborhoods, or our cars, or our jobs, or our colleges. We think about each other a lot, and because of that, I think we limit ourselves based on the collective mores, as my lawyer taught me to say, not collective mores. I always believe my lawyer, whatever he tells me. Hey, now you can see the windmills turning. It's a pretty day. So that's the final word, is we do affect each other collectively, whether it's magic or not. And I think that we have to work to rise up. And I think it helps everyone else when we do it individually. Sometimes there's just no reason inside you or outside in terms of what you can see, what you see around you, that you can observe yourself, that would explain the cosmic weather that hits your emotions. You might wake up and be sure that everything is fine in your life, inside yourself and outside, and then all hell breaks loose emotionally, not in your external circumstances. And that's when I think that we're connected to each other magically. Just certain days you'll be going along as happy as can be, and then a stabbing fear will hit you, or a caution, or some feeling that other people are disapproving of you that has nothing to do with anything you can figure out. And so just guessing, I'd say that that's either demons or the collective will of the people that just, but it seems so personal. It seems aimed at me when I feel like I'm rising, when my stock is rising, when I'm figuring things out and I'm really starting to make a change in how I look at life. And I admit that could be my subconscious. But I just feel like I'm in touch with my subconscious a lot better than I have been. I feel like that's not it. And I don't have any proof of that. But I think it's like the weather. I feel like some days you just wake up and feel great, but it's a shitty day. But I'm not willing to accept that it's a shitty day when it's raining. I like the rain. I don't even mind the challenges that come when there's a thunderstorm or a blizzard. It's okay. I like those days. I can be happy during those days. And I've figured out today, I think, that I can be happy when the cosmic weather is in my face, because it's a beautiful day and there's just no reason not to feel excellent. And I have been feeling excellent, but it feels the same way as when I'm feeling excellent under duress, when the weather is shitty but I'm still having a great day. And when I've had a day like that and powered through it and won, then the next day goes better. It feels like I've gotten somewhere. No other shoe is going to drop because no first shoe has dropped, even if it wants to. The reason I started this again, the reason I opened up my camera on the way home in my car, is because I bumped into some people at the end of my workday, and it felt like they were part of the weather. And nothing bad happened, but I could tell that it was trying to. Like, people were watching me, listening to my words, trying to catch me in a mistake. And you can say, oh, it's all in your imagination. But it isn't. I mean, I know that it isn't. And my goal is to make me bulletproof, and anybody who can hear this and benefit from it, to make you bulletproof too. It feels as though we can do it, that it's possible. Just like when we put on a raincoat. We can do it. And we don't have to be swamped when the weather is challenging.